You're now the global chief officer of the UFC and are therefore in charge of operations in Asia. UFC had its first The Ultimate Fighter in China this year. Was that like planting a seed there to get MMA more exposure in China? So we could maybe be seeing a Chinese champion in maybe 10 years or so?
Yeah, you know, if you look at the sport that we're in, it's a global sport. And that's not just us saying it's a global sport. It's big in Brazil. It's big in Canada, the United States. Mexico's coming online. We've got big growth here in Europe. And it's one of the few sports that you look at and you can say it's a global sport. Combat is global, and it's not, you know, golf, cricket, tennis, they're not necessarily global. So, so what we have tools that help us to develop the marketplace. You know, The Ultimate Fighter is a reality show that helps us develop fighters but also develop fans. It's a 12-week series and fans getting interested in the stories and all of that, and we do that around the world. We've also got the live events, and we've also got loads of magazine programming and shows, but we're also opening gyms around the world, and so we've got a whole bunch of stuff going on. But I think the interesting thing about China was culturally it's just completely different to anywhere else in the world. You know, there's an honor and a respect that you have to be aware of in that region, and I just wonder whether the China tough would have been China versus another nation. They sort of prefer that than they do, you know, China versus China. There's sort of there's an element of respect that we probably weren't aware of. But I think that where I do see growth in Asia is Korea, in Japan. We just had an event in Japan. And mainland China is difficult, so we prefer to go to Macau. You know, and we've been in Singapore. There's a big MMA community out there. They love MMA. They love combat sports. But I think in Asia you can try and be too many things to too many people. So we have to go carefully.
Yeah, I see. The only African fighter I can think of is Ruan Potts, a heavyweight. How is it in regards of talent in the Middle East and Africa? Is that something you're looking into, and when could we be expecting to see UFC fighters coming from that part of the world?
Well, I think there are MMA fighters in that part of the world, and as we've grown, you know, some people sometimes forget that we're only 13 years old. You know, soccer leagues are 150 years old, so we got a lot of catching up to do. We look at the talent pool in 3 different cases. We look at identifying talent, and we have a mechanism to do that. We have you know, we watch the training of the talent, and we try and help their training, putting them in the right gyms, getting them the right coaches. And in Mexico, we actually we took you know, 10 fighters out of Mexico, and we put them into a camp in America. And so we're always looking at ways to train and develop the fighters, and then we match them up and put them into the into combat competition. So those 3, it's quite a big undertaking. You know, we have 450 UFC fighters currently, and we have events around. So again, we're using the events to expose the business and the brand, and then we're using the fighters locally to help generate. We've not had an event in Africa, so obviously, you know, there's an element of that required, but there's an organisation down there that's pretty lively. We know the guys very well, and they're always talking to us about fighters coming into the UFC. So I think all of it's going to start to grow and build. But again, you know, there's only so many resources to go around the world. We're you know, the 6.4 billion people around the world. There's only 300 people working at UFC. It's a bit difficult.
You previously worked in football and basketball. How much of a change was it for you to come from 2 mainstream sports to MMA, which perhaps isn't quite as big yet? Yeah, I mean, obviously you know, both basketball and football are pretty well rooted in cultures around the world, but both of them, particularly basketball, is an American culture, and it doesn't necessarily translate around the world, although it continues to grow and build. And the biggest league in the world, the NBA, is an American league. This is a much different model. MMA or UFC is both the league. We work with the fighters. We sort of contract with the fighters, and we produce all of our own content, television content, etc. So it's a completely different business, and it's a different sport. However, there's one common denominator, and that is the athletes. Every athlete in the world wants to be the best, and that's what we love about sport. Sport really is the drama and the of winning and losing, and so there's nothing more pure and authentic than two people in combat. One's going to win and one's going to lose. You just don't know who, and you just don't know when. And I think that's the compelling piece that fans have turned to, whereas football and basketball are just very different propositions.
Has Iceland a realistic chance to host an UFC event, given the population and it's not legal there, and we probably lack a stadium big enough for the UFC?
Yeah, stadiums are always important. You know, coming to you know, a nation where you've got such a great fighter. I mean, one of the world's best fighters is Icelandic. So yeah, the right arena is a big issue. But I think more importantly than that, we're respectful of the authority and the regulation and governance. I can't obviously agree that it should be banned. Not when you've got a national hero who could actually make, could add value to the virtues and the culture of the youth in Iceland. And it's the new sport. Yeah. The train left the station many years ago. This is a sport that is capturing the hearts and minds of millions and millions of people around the world. So as long as you keep banning it, you're actually going to keep pushing it underground. If you allow it to be regulated, and I use that word, you know, with gravity, because you have to make sure that you've got the right people doing the right thing in the sport in the right place. And if you don't have that, then you're susceptible to unlawful behaviour, and that's not good. We don't wish for that in any nation. So I don't agree, but I also am respecting the position. But I also think that they should take a look at places like Sweden, where it was banned, and now it generates a good, you know, a good economic growth for not only the sports landscape. It fills newspapers. They've created a national hero. They've got somebody to celebrate, and the Swedish flag will fly in Las Vegas or Brazil as a gentleman goes on his way to win the world title. So I think that's good for national pride.